Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison, and this is Maintaining Frame number 59. Pearl jousts with Ava Santina on Piers Morgan. No, that's wrong. Pearl takes off the gloves on Piers Morgan. Let's see how she does. You probably saw that there was originally going to be another thing we're going to respond to, but we changed our minds, and because this is a little bit more timely, we will do the other video called The Death of Feminism and the Future of Activism by a French girl. I don't remember her name, Ava something, or I don't know. It doesn't matter. We'll look at that next time. But on this one,
will we show them? Will we show them the compilation of the highlights from the French?
Oh, I don't have that handy, but we could. Maybe I can bring that next time. Yeah, I can show you.
Yeah, let's bring it.
On the next one, because
the French are really the game on chaos.
Yeah, France is all I will say is that the video we were going to respond to probably did not age very well considering what's been going on in France, but not Ava Brighton. Ava Brighton's all right. This is Alice Capelle. I don't know. It's French. It's Paris talk. I don't speak Paris talk. I don't speak surrender. So anyway, but this is Piers Morgan, and he has his own show. I think it's called Piers Morgan Uncensored or something. And he's bringing on a feminist by the name of let me see, Ava Santina, and they're debating some of anti-feminism's, I guess, controversial views on women, and they're talking to Pearl Davis, or Hannah Pearl Davis, I think is her full name, on this particular subject. And I watched this video today, and I thought that Pearl handled herself pretty well. I think that there was definitely a desire to get her to react strongly. The feminist was being very serpentine, and Piers is just kind of clueless, so I don't have anything against him. I'm glad that he gave her a platform and he wasn't treating her the way that Ethan did. So, there you go. So, anyway,
all right.
We'll go ahead and get into the video, but what was that?
The very serpentine. She's doing a serpentine.
Yeah, she's serpentine. Look, I've seen bad faith actors, and I know how they operate. I've seen it many times, and this woman is no different. She's not exceptional, but she is no different. So, if you know what you're looking for, it's not hard. She clearly doesn't really want to hear what Pearl has to say. And I guess in a way, she is in the superior position, even though she's trying to be the underdog. So, there is also that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I just love that. Yeah, we're the underdogs. We control the media, the government, academia. We control financial institutions suck up to us. But we're the underdogs.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. They always want to maintain that. All right, so before we get into it, if you want to send us a message, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Very much appreciated. The best way to send us funds and the best way to get a message to us, because you can avoid YouTube's tricksy censorship rules. Change the hour. And you can also make sure that the majority of your funds go to us and supporting the show. So once again, that's feedthebadger.com/justthetip. You can also send us a tip after the show is over if you enjoy this content. If you have a comment that you want us to address at the next relevant show, then we will do that. So once again, feedthebadger.com/justthetip. All right, let's just get into it.
All right.
Forgo any kind of...
Yeah, we do have a JoJo here. He is sleeping on his little bed. So, help us out so I can feed my doggo. So, all right. Anyway, let's get into the video. So we'll just go through it because I saw this today, so I didn't really have time to get time codes. But, it's pretty straightforward. It's not a long video. So we'll just go ahead and go ahead and start. So here we go. Here's Piers Morgan introducing the topic.
Welcome back to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Pearl Davis has racked up a legion of online followers and plenty of breathless newspaper coverage by sharing her incendiary views on modern feminism. The New York Post called her the female Andrew Tate. So she tapped into genuine female pushback to the excesses of wokery, or is she just an attention seeker? We'll find out in a moment. But first, let's take a look at the clip that's sent viral.
Let's stop here because
yeah.
the banana.
Yeah, it's only 20 seconds. So So, all right. So Piers is saying, like, this is like the kind of stuff that Pearl is accused of. So he says, oh, she's being called the female Andrew Tate. All right. Now, before anyone even begins to make comparisons, just realize that the reason why the media is doing this is because they have sufficiently demonized and dragged Andrew Tate's name through the mud. So now they can attach anyone they want to that name, and it will drag them to the mud by extension. It's the same thing they did with Elliot Rodger. It's the same thing they did with Alec Manassian. It's the same thing. They're just doing the same. It's the same old tactic. So before you even get started on that, don't bother. These people don't care. We already know it's bullshit. I'm ready to continue, but I don't know.
I will say this.
Okay.
All right, I do have a few things to say. I think that we can probably safely remove Alec Manassian and Elliot Rodger from the same pool as Andrew Tate. As far as I know, he hasn't killed anyone. I have not gone into the situation with Andrew Tate enough to say that there is absolutely nothing that he has done. I know that he is engaged in some serious grifting towards men, and that is really unfortunate. I would never advocate for people to buy into that. But so far, several people have come at me on Twitter, and every time I just do the thing like, you've made an allegation. Can you time code that allegation? Can we look at it? Okay, what does this mean? What does this imply? I have yet to have someone come at me with something that seems to be criminal. Yes, he has engaged in, I guess, ultimatums, as in, my way or the highway, which is unsavory, perhaps. Certainly, if I never would be in a relationship, because I'm sure I do not in any way go to the bar of looks that he would be interested in. So I'm not saying that, but, I probably wouldn't tolerate that. I don't think people should necessarily tolerate that in their relationships, but that's not criminal. That's not kidnapping. It's not human trafficking. So just keep it to what you can prove, and we'll discuss it from there and find out what happens. I also heard that he ran afoul of the Romanian mob, which, yes, he was talking big, and he was probably annoying the crap out of them, but as far as I know, that's not illegal either.
Right.
But anyway, so that's what I know. I haven't looked into it. I really, honestly, this is like the least interesting thing for me to do. So maybe there is like a smoking gun that someone hasn't shown me yet. But until then, it just seems like he's being railroaded. And yeah, He's not a savory individual. And I don't think he has anybody's well-being in mind. But he does say some truthful things, and we should look at that. We should look at the truths that he's talking about, because that's what really matters to the rest of us. That's what we're going to end up getting hung on. Okay, so that's what I have to say about Andrew Tate. I don't think he should be put in the same breath as Alex Manassian or Elliot Rodger and anyone who's actually taken a life. And certainly Pearl shouldn't even be put in the same breath as Andrew Tate. So yeah, this is just demonization by association, which is, we've been through this. We've been on this. We've been in this rodeo multiple times, and every time they do it, it's wrong, and it's just an intent to silence someone. But who knows? Maybe she's enjoying the notoriety of being the female Andrew Tate. It hasn't been hurting her in terms of her followers.
Right. I mean, my purpose in bringing it up is not to make a defense of or a condemnation of Pearl, Andrew Tate, Alec Manassian, or Elliot Rodger. I'm just saying that those people are tools that the media uses. Yeah. So that's it. That's all it is. It's just a tool that they use, to poison the well, and that's it. It could have just as easily been Paul Elam or Karen. It doesn't really matter. Somebody.
It's hard to poison the well with Karen, though.
Well, it's hard because Karen is kind of careful, but that doesn't mean that what, for example, Pearl or Tate have talked about that I agree with. That doesn't invalidate it, even if they do it in a rude way or if they upset people or whatever. Because I think all of that worrying about, offense and whatnot is just it's not useful for us to be concerned with because these people don't care. They don't care who they have hurt or offend with what their their claims.
There's some serious truth that the motivation for all this censoriousness is actually sadism, not sympathy or compassion.
Yeah.
But the other thing I wanted to mention is, I noticed that they don't bring in Roma as opposed to like Pearl.
Well, yeah, because Roma is a lot more like what I'm saying. Roma's a lot more feminist friendly because, like I was telling you before the show, Roma like says, "Oh, I agree with these feminist things, but I disagree. But I agree with these men's rights things," and she thinks it's like, "Oh, I'm going for true equality, right, in the men's rights community," as she puts it, in her men's rights community. But I think that she's less of a controversial figure, right? Roma doesn't say the things that Pearl says. Now maybe Pearl is doing it just to get attention, but I don't think that it would have been a lot easier for her to grift if she was just a feminist, because you would get millions of dollars doing that. Millions of dollars.
But you could argue that the business place, the marketplace is saturated now with grifters.
Perhaps, yeah, but no, that's what it is.
Actually,
I mean, the whole thing is a grift, so.
Yeah, but you know what I think it actually is? I think Pearl's just a little on the spectrum.
She is. She's a bit like that. Yeah.
Yeah, she might just be driven by the fact that people aren't making any goddamn sense around her, and it's her nuts.
Well,
like,
yeah.
That's something that I'm driven by.
Yeah, that's my suspicion, but let us continue.
A lot of people think I'm insane because I don't think women should vote. Everybody thinks I'm crazy for this opinion. If anything, this is probably my most extreme opinion. 90% of women have been on birth control. 1 out of 3 women has had an abortion. 1 out of 3 women has an STD. Average body count is over 5, so that your average wife has slept with over 5 people. 95% of women are not virgins on their wedding days. So I understand the complaint.
All right, I'm just pausing it there.
All right.
So that's like of the video, I guess one of her viral videos. Where's the lie?
But also, what she's talking about, also, like, she looks significantly good job, BBC, or what,
the
Piers
makeup team over there or whatever.
Yeah, for being flattering, and the flattering lighting, and not doing something shitty like making her look like a freaking,
like the GQ article.
Yeah, like the GQ article, not like hyper, like massive sharpening so you can see every goddamn pore. So good job on them being nice and not going the route of disparaging her through her looks. But what I wanted to say is that what she's listed, honestly, those are the softballs.
Oh yeah, for sure. She's she recently she did a short response video, or a couple of short response videos to Paul Elam content. So I think that she's starting to like watch our stuff too now. So I mean, she's kind of like on a journey, right? I think so. I mean, again, I know people are gonna say whatever they're gonna say about her, but personally, if she's saying stuff that I like, then I'm just gonna support that, and I don't really care what she hopes to get out of it, as long as you're telling the truth. I don't really care. So,
I mean, it doesn't, like, as long as you're telling the truth and what you're saying is grounded in reality,
and
isn't demonizing men.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, exactly. Like we did the response to the libertarian feminist. I like libertarianism as a principle and a concept, but like, that woman was horrible. Because she was saying enough. It's like, this is how it works, okay? They say enough true things that you will like them, but then they throw a bunch of very untrue and harmful things in there as part of their overall, message. And you a lot of people won't call it out because they're like, well, she agrees with these things, but then she'll go, well, men do get rapey, women do get sexually assaulted, rape culture is real, right? And all of that, like, men can't control women's bodies, like these kinds of things. So when you see that, then okay, wait, this woman's not really, like, when she pays lip service to men, that's all it is. Like, at the end of the day, what she advocates for will harm men. So this woman should be, at the very least, challenged on those things in the hopes that maybe she'll change her position. But that's not the same. There are people who are legitimately trying to do something good, but maybe they don't have all of the information, or they're working like with a limited access to information. So I think that it's important to help those people, and I include Roma in that as well. So hopefully she'll figure it out.
This is a journey.
Yeah, it's a journey.
Yeah. The problem is when women come into this kind of space, and say, well, I'm going to be the one who dictates the terms. No, you're not. You
Yeah.
go on the journey and you figure it out.
Yeah.
This is not a space where you dictate the terms. And furthermore, it's really not a space where men dictate the terms. It's where reality dictates the terms. And but the other thing I wanted to say is, I mean, I've had an experience of that. And one of the Canadian Association for Equality's events, there was a person who called herself a feminist who got up on stage and was talking, and I challenged her. And apparently, according to Prim, the next event she had a completely different demeanor, because I'd explained to her what was wrong with patriarchy, like the just using the term patriarchy, using the term toxic masculinity. What the problem with these things? And she had updated her worldview, which is really all you want, because this is a journey. Some people start out, and the difference between the people who might end up in a better place are the ones who are open and don't decide that they're the ones who set the terms. Okay, because they're not going to go anywhere. They're going to stay exactly where they are. So when women come into these spaces, they should come in with curiosity and a desire to learn what's going on until I don't know, however long, and just take the journey, take the journey to understanding. The reason why I said that what she's talking about are softballs is that this doesn't directly put like feminist theory or feminist allegation and all of the social roles and stuff that it's based on, because feminist allegation is a very traditional concept of gender.
Yeah.
It doesn't put that squarely in its sights. And so this ends up being sort of the softball, like, you know, many women are now single mothers, you know, and they have had sex with multiple men and all of this other stuff. And people will say, well, it's not fair to judge women for that. Really? Okay, well, we judge men for being promiscuous, right? We do. We say that they are engaging in harming their partners somehow. Women who are able to have sex or sleep around or have casual sex are able to walk away from a sexual contact with another human being. That means something. Now, I don't mean that you can't overcome that, or in a relationship where you're both, you know, sort of, you know, very compatible, that can't be overcome or anything. But it is something to consider. And certainly it can't be overcome if one of the takeaways that women get from promiscuous sex or casual sex is that all men are terrible. Okay? One of the takeaways from having a child with a man that you end up leaving, and then in many cases engaging in some really hostile, nasty behavior towards, if one of the takeaways from that is that men are terrible, you are becoming less and less of a legitimate option, period. And it's not even, you can't even argue this. And I will put my foot down. You cannot argue this. If your attitude towards men is that men and masculinity are to blame for society, that men and masculinity are some kind of evil, that somehow men evolved over the last million years in conjunction with women, but actually don't add anything, you realize that is logical, that is factually wrong. Like, there's no way that there could be a stable population, half the human race, that didn't add something to the society that we produce, or the reproductive process, which, you know, includes creating societies, because society is basically just a gigantic nest for our little productive colonies. Okay, that you cannot, there's no way that the number of men would be stable if they didn't add to the reproductive success of our species, which means they contribute something equally, at least as valuable as what women contribute in terms of offspring, period. There's no way to get around it. So biologically, men have an inherent value. Otherwise, Mother Nature would have wiped them out, okay? And she hasn't, all right?
Yeah.
So men have an inherent value. And if you are a woman going out there and who denies this, refuses to acknowledge the worth of men and masculinity, then you are undateable. You're unmarriageable. I wouldn't even have sex with you if I were a man, but some men will have sex with you, but keep you at arm's distance. Fair enough. All right, but that makes you a non-prospect romantically. And as she's talking about body count, she's talking about looks and age and all of that stuff. That is the softball. The hardball is that feminism itself, the ideology, the allegation, is making women in real terms, factual terms, undateable, unrealistic as romantic prospects. Because there is no one on this earth who should be saddled with a person who expresses or believes or contempt or believes the worst of their gender identity. I don't care which of the 256 flavors on the spectrum you are. Nobody should be saddled with someone like that. And I don't mean that, men really like jacked up trucks and loud horns and man cave kind of stuff. Everybody has their their little joking stuff that between groups that where you just poke fun at people's idiosyncrasies, people's flaws, men and women's flaws. That's fine. That's just, it's been that way probably since the dawn of time. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about genuine contempt, believing that masculinity is synonymous with criminality, believing that men's primary characteristic in relation to women has been one of oppression. That is contempt. It's intense contempt, and you cannot have a relationship based on that. And that's the hardball. The hardball is that feminism makes women unlovable.
And she's not even quite at that point yet. So, but okay, let's continue. But this sort of tells you how far do you have to, I guess, oppose feminism before you get attention like this. That's kind of like the we're looking at where is the line. Of course, we've been saying things like this for a while, but we haven't.
Well, actually, the line seems to be going further in an interesting direction. Because now she can say, "I don't believe women should vote." Right?
Yeah.
And I'll also give a caveat to that. I mean, there is a significant strain of misandry in conservative thought as well, which I think gave birth to the feminist misandry. It's almost like a pure concentrated form in feminism that conservatives just keep in its less refined form, perhaps. Okay. You want to go? Or speak?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm just, I thought you were done, or you were going to say something else. All right, well, let's keep going. Let's see what they're going to throw at her.
Okay, well, Pearl joins me now alongside political journalist Ava Santini, who was nodding furiously along there to everything she heard. Right, Pearl, you've been called the female Andrew Tate. How do you plead?
Well, I take it as a compliment. I'm a fan of Andrew Tate.
Of everything he says?
It depends what we're talking about, but overall, I think he's got a good message. I think he's good for young men.
Okay, look, you're talking about women predominantly, which is why you've got this big following. And your view is that modern feminism is deeply flawed. I would argue a lot of your proposals, like taking the vote away from women, are deeply regressive.
All right, I'm just pausing there for the banana. I think he is, well, he probably believes that, but I also think that if someone's going to make a claim like that, it's not a bad idea to, take them to task, because to say women shouldn't get the vote is not, it's not something that people would just be like, well, yeah, I guess you got a point. Obviously, people are going to challenge you on that, and he probably just wants to see if she has a ready statement. So, what were we going to say?
I'm going to take a harder line.
Okay.
Regressive? It is a proposal. Let us hear the pros and cons.
Sure.
Logically. Let's not start throwing around arguments like regressive or hateful.
No, I agree. I don't think it's a good thing to say, but it is a bold claim.
Political balancing going on. Everything is checks and balances, right? And,
absolutely.
Perhaps Pearl has thought this through very carefully about what kind of checks and balances are needed when we're talking about how societies treat men versus women. Because you know what? Let's see what she has to say.
All right.
Why would you want to remove just from yourself the right to vote?
Well, what happened was I had the same view, right? Back when I started, I was like, why? I found out that only 5% of women wanted the right to vote. And I couldn't figure out, why would women not? No, it's true. It's true.
At the time.
At the time.
Because they've been conditioned by men to think that they shouldn't have a vote.
I mean, that's what they say.
But shut up.
Yeah, I know. Men did this to them. Men, what were they doing? Whipping them? Do you want the vote? No, please, no more. It's so stupid. It is.
What are you talking about? Women control the early childhood, where most of the conditioning for masculine and femininity and personal value comes in. right? Where
Yeah.
there's studies now that suggest, and they're always very careful, like if it was the reverse, they would say, oh yeah, men are totally responsible. But because it's women that they found was responsible for teaching boys that they can't cry, to teach boys to be stoic, and to allow girls more opportunity to express emotions like anger and hatred and jealousy and rage. So girls get more opportunity by their mothers to express negative emotions as well as as well as negative in terms of sadness too, than boys. And all of this is contributing to the conditioning of how men and women view themselves. If you want to look at it purely in terms of social conditioning instead of just bringing in the biology too. But here's the thing, like that's women. Women are doing the predominant conditioning of everyone in society, and that was true back then as well. Like women would do things like they would restrict, for example, ship workers. Men couldn't. They would restrict men from having access to younger boys. In certain if boys were in the workforce, it was expected that men should not interact with them, and women enforced that. Okay, so women, and that was back in like the 1900s. So women did have this power, this social power, to monopolize the conditioning of young children as to the values of their society, of the values of what they should do, what they shouldn't do. And here's the other thing. You go back and, for example, I'm going to use Hemingway as an example. Hemingway's mother used to shame him about being a man, okay? And what being a man entailed. And this was the woman that used to dress Hemingway as a girl when the fancy took her. And she ended up like shaming him about his manhood, and saying, "Oh, you're not enough of a man. When you're a child, a woman tends to you like a orchard, and now your manhood is her fruit." That kind of thing. And his first like serious love also shamed the crap out of him as a man. So this idea that men have that kind of social control over women, you'd think the first thing that men would have done in the early 19th century, if they were able to condition women, would be to get them to stop shaming the crap out of them. Don't you think? So this is all like, and this idea that women shame men's manhood, white feather, the White Feather Brigade, this is a huge influence on how men view themselves. And here's another thing. Here's another example about how the way we're conditioned to see ourselves, and specifically the way men are conditioned to see their masculinity in relation to women, actually controls them. The Great Depression. So many men were out of work. It was like a bloodbath of unemployment. Very little actual labor protesting organization. And why? Because each of those men was personally shamed and humiliated by he saw it, not in external circumstance. You'd think that if any situation men would see that their inability to provide was external, it'd be the Great Depression, right? They looked at that and they saw only their own personal failing. So they never organized against an external force because they never saw it, because they were conditioned to identify themselves as the failure. Who conditioned them to do that? And if they had all this patriarchal power, why didn't they condition themselves to not do that? So this is absolute bullshit. Right off the bat, Piers Morgan is full of crap. Like if he's going to really honestly argue that men have a bigger social clout, bigger ability to determine how women should act, and what expectations, they have this patriarchal thrall over women, and women don't. Manhood is basically, that word encapsulates the power women have to judge men's identities and their worth. Okay? You're a man. You're not a man. Why? Because you're not protecting and providing for your women. Okay? Right there. We have a word for it. We have a word for women's judgment of men's identity. Man itself. You're not a real man. Okay? So, and do we have the same thing for men? Can men go up to a woman and say, "You're not a real woman, because you have a penis"? Like what? Right. They can't say you're not a real woman because you're a harridan or because you want things that you really shouldn't have. Yeah. Okay? Because you're not going to take responsibility for them. They don't have a word for that. Yet women do have a word. They have a phrase and a word that controls men's identities. Men don't. So if you're going to propose this idea that men have the ability to control women's identities and condition them not to want something, bullshit. I call bullshit. I don't see it.
Well, yeah, of course. And also, if men were able to coerce women not to try to get the vote, like which is what he claimed, then if men have that much power over women, then why don't they just continue to do that today? How do we know that any woman is voting for what she really wants?
That's a really good.
So I mean, yeah, like women have the women really changed? Oh yeah, that's right. Men stopped hating women in the 60s. Or no, they still do, but they gave up a little of their patriarchal power in the 60s. And they let women believe they have the vote, but they really don't, because men still have control over women somehow.
Yeah, this is all arguments that we've heard.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, if it was men who was conditioning women to not want the vote, then how come about the same generation of men gave women the vote?
Yeah, exactly. If men gave women the vote, women didn't do it by themselves. So it's completely nonsensical. And again, I don't know like how things work in the UK, but the vote is not a right. It's a responsibility. And we're basically treating it like not just a right. Well, no, not just a right, but an entitlement for women, because women can vote for whatever they want whenever a politician says, I'm going to give you this, I'm going to give you that, I'm going to give you this. And all he's doing is saying, I have access to men's hard work, men's money, and I'm going to give it to you for whatever it is you want. And don't worry about any of the consequences, because if we end up going to war, you're not the one that's going to die. It's them, right?
Yeah.
If when it comes to paying for things, you're not the one that's going to pay. It's them. It's the men.
Yeah,
so
it's
I
men.
mean, that's like, and that again, I don't know if Pearl like mentions that, but that's I don't. Well, no, she probably. I think if it was brought to her, she would put two and two together. But I don't know. So anyway, let's. I got a super chow and I got a super chat. So Plain Dane gives us $5.
Continue.
Yeah. Plain Dane
right.
gives us. Oh yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, you were gonna say something.
All right. We had a bit of a traffic jam there. What I was going to say is that if men conditioned women to not want the vote, what the hell changed? Because it sure as hell wasn't feminists. Because the suffragists were actively saying that feminists were retarding their efforts in getting women the vote. Okay? So what changed?
Yep. No,
and
I mean,
why would they have and what possessed these men to change their mind and stop conditioning women? Okay? Wouldn't that itself be evidence of men caring about women? Anyway,
theory.
Continue.
All right. So I got a super chow from Plain Dane for $5, and they say, I looked into the masculinists thing, and I was right. It wasn't a meme. You guys got it confused with Meninism, which is the parody of feminism that started on Twitter. Masculinist/masculinism is an offshoot of MGTOW, because I distinctly remember talking with actual masculinists. Well, thanks for clearing it up. Let me know when those guys are actually running like the government and they're in office and they're like actually like working against women, and then we'll talk. But for now, I appreciate you making that clear, but I frankly don't think that's at all important. Like, they have no influence. Can you imagine a group of men getting together and trying to like advocate and get all of the same money and attention and support and government interventions that feminists get? Can you imagine? Because that's never happened, and I don't expect it will happen with us either. All we want is for the laws to be fair.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Plain Dane. Albert Nader Retro gives us $5 Canadian and says, Karen and Paul are nothing like Tate. They oppose coercive control versus Tate, who promotes using it on women. I'm not going to respond to it. I'm just going to leave it at that. Thank you for the donation and the comments. We'll see. So, all right, back to the video.
I started reading their writings, right? And what I found out was that the reason a lot of women advocated for it was because they believed it was the beginning of the breakdown of the family. Before you became one in marriage, 85% of people were married. And, I hate to say it, but they were right. What has happened 100 years later?
What's that got to do with them having the vote?
Well, it also goes back to responsibility. Again,
okay, what it has to do with them having the vote, Piers? Well, it's discretizing the family. Instead of a family having a vote, which is really what it was, and the men being responsible for casting it, but I'm guarantee those men who cast the vote did not cast the vote thinking, oh, I'm gonna stick it to my wife. Are you fucking kidding me?
Mm-hmm. I got the vote, lady. I'm gonna use it for myself. I don't know why he has an accent, but it's so like when a man votes, okay, he votes on not just on behalf of himself, but he votes on behalf of his family and for his legacy, like his kids and his kids' kids, right? Now we're in a situation where kids are born into debt, and their kids will be born into debt, because of the way that we have been voting, because of the direction our country has gone. And I would be remiss not to mention that people voting in their own self-interest to get what they want in the moment without thinking about the future, without thinking about their children and their children's children, is how we got here, at least in part. So yeah, I mean, I think that it does have a lot to do with the family. And I think that it makes the family like kind of less cohesive right off the jump, because men tend to vote one way and women tend to vote another way. So that's what.
But married women tend to vote more.
Yeah, they tend to vote in line with their husbands. Yes, because that, again, what men tend to vote for, if they are fathers and they have children and they have a wife and they own property and all of that, they're voting in the interest of that continuing to build on itself. Whereas, a woman is not as likely to vote for that if she isn't married. She's going to vote for what she wants, especially if she's one of these, women that are like, I don't want to have any kids. I don't want to get married. I'm a boss bitch. I'm going to do my thing. Like, they're obviously, when they vote, they're going to vote for what they want or what they can, like, virtue signal about, I voted for to feed those hungry African people because my government, the guy I voted for said he was going to send them a bunch of food or whatever it was, right?
Even worse, I voted to send those bombs to that suspicious country because women's rights.
Mm-hmm.
That's the worst of it. Like, Afghanistan sold to American women. Lots of wars across the world are sold to American women. So these are women's rights bombs.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's insane. These are women's rights drone strikes.
Yeah, they got like feminist logos on the bombs. They're like painted on. So.
Yeah. Okay, but
okay.
I wanted to just continue with this. All right, so sorry, it's just like I sometimes lose my train of thought because it feels like we're both competing to speak. The idea that the vote sort of takes family apart. So instead of one family, one vote, it's now two people, and then you start to be able to appeal just exclusively to women. And women, from the very get-go, had a situation that men did not. They did not have to put skin in the game when it came to war. So once you see the vote with women, you start seeing, I don't know if you guys noticed this, the military-industrial complex starts to really accelerate. Do you notice that?
Mm-hmm.
And then, there's more and more and more and more wars because women are voting for things they don't have the skin in the game. And then they also get to vote for things like beanies to themselves, but they don't have to earn the tax dollars. That's men who underwrite the issues or the things that they're paying for. Because now you have this voting bloc that can vote for benefits to themselves without considering the costs, because there are no costs.
Right.
They don't bear any costs. And that attitude has been constructing a larger and larger and larger debt. Women are actually spending their grandchildren's, which they probably won't have, their grandchildren's inheritance right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Pearl has a freaking point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the question is, do we take away women's vote, or do we have women have skin in the game?
Well, we can at least talk about it. And the thing is that at this stage, even though people are bringing this up, the only counter action is you can't talk about that, right? So let's see what happens next.
Pearl says,
Are 80 to 90% of the military. They run all of the infrastructures that make society.
Some are men.
So I just think if we want an equal say in society, then be equal. Do 50% of the hard jobs. Be 50% of the military. In the U.S., they're fined $250,000 if they don't join selective service, which is essentially the draft.
Okay, but specifically on the vote, what would having the right to vote have to do with family cohesion, for example?
Well, because again, before you weren't trying to divide a family. It was one family unit. You had one vote for the family.
Okay, just pausing for the banana. We'll see what else she has to say. This is all stuff we've already talked about.
I mean, I don't think it's good for a family to have 2 votes.
Ava, your mouth seems to have dropped
No,
about
do you know what it's
I
sort of
know.
like?
I
No,
know.
it's just sort of a bit galaxy brain. I feel like, you know, the stats that you're putting down are perhaps correct in some universes.
Which stats?
They just kind of don't really add up. I mean, just to take you back to the to the women's writings that you've allegedly read. I mean, at
Allegedly?
The time, well, at the
You see, now that's good. She calls her out immediately because she says, "Oh, the writings you
Yeah.
allegedly read." She's like, "Allegedly."
Yeah, but let's look at this woman. Like, okay, I'm gonna tell you. Like, she's basically just there saying why our great grandchildren should bankroll her personal life choices.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, let's put this out. And it's not even her great grandchildren, because the debt that her great grandchildren are gonna bear, the people who are underwriting it is everybody else around the globe. You as a Western woman, you are making your excuses as to why you want to construct a system that siphons resources from every other country around the world, the BRICS, basically, to you. Why you get to have that, you goddamn imperialist swine. But this is and we've hidden all of this behind women's rights. Oh yeah, it's women's rights. That's why we're gonna go bomb brown people. It's women's rights. That's why we're gonna go set up some more parasitical, vampiric financial institutions in the brown nations to take some more resources for us. Like, seriously, that's what's behind all of this. You imperialist, and you take no responsibility for any of it. You don't deserve that much. You know, and I a while back, I got into this really brief discussion about immigration, right? Okay, the reason why Western cultures are engaging in immigration now is because their women take no responsibility whatsoever. So they are importing women who will actually incentivize the work of men. Of course, within a couple generations, they're doing the same thing that these women are doing. But for a while, it works. Women who will actually take responsibility, some responsibility for creating family and creating a structure in which men want to work or inspired to work. Those are conservative countries, or conservative values. We're importing conservative values. And within a couple generations, they're gone. But then we import more and more and more. And that's why we're doing it. Conservatives, the reason why immigration is happening is because you aren't fucking controlling your daughters. And you are not giving them the skills to actually grow up and be proper, upright citizens with a stake in the world that they've constructed and that we're constructing. To have skin in the game. You know what? I don't even care if skin in the game is a tax burden or skin in the game is military service like they do in Israel. Women need skin in the game or they don't make the right. They're making the choices that are going to end up imploding the whole system. Because eventually the BRICS are going to be like, you know what? We don't want to. We're not going to pay for pussy we're getting no value from. Goodbye, West.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That was a bit of a rant. Angry
back
rant.
to the video.
I mean,
Allegedly? What do you mean allegedly?
At the time that you're talking about, you know, women weren't really allowed to write. They weren't allowed to go to school.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. That's
actually,
incorrect. The first female property owner was in the 1600s. The idea that women couldn't work and couldn't.
I'm so sorry, but that would be inherited.
You see how she's laughing? Like, that's probably true. I mean, it probably even goes before that. And we're not talking about a widow that inherits it. What, there were women property owners. There were women in medicine. There were women academics. There were women scientists. This whole thing is like it's bullshit. It was way before the suffrage movement. It was way before women got the vote. You know?
Okay. Women owned 30% of the brick foundries in Rome.
Yeah.
And they ran 10% of them. Okay? And the brick foundries, that's huge. Like, that was one of the biggest industries in Rome. And then there are other industries that women dominated as well. Like, completely. And there were industries during the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, that women completely dominated. The Lace Makers Guild, beer brewing in some cases, you know. And then there was also the fact that a woman could inherit the practice of her husband, who might have been like a master in some kind of craft, right, on his death. Like, this is all bullshit. Women have had property since there was property.
Yep.
Lady?
Yep.
They have had property, and the Roman inheritance laws were actually very liberal when it came to women. In fact, every place in like Europe where women can inherit equally to that of men, like Brittany and some other places in the UK, that's based on Roman law. It's Salic law. I think it's that Salic law that denies, that says that the property has to go to the first male heir. And you know why they upheld that instead of going over to Roman law? There was a very involved political reason. But the reason why is if they didn't uphold Salic law, I believe the British monarchy, like the French monarchy, then would have a legitimate claim on Britain. So they were like, no, we can't challenge this because then the French will invade and take our country. I think it's either that way or the other way. But anyway, that's why they upheld it. It had nothing to do with, oh, we hate women. It was just simply an inherited problem. And this is what you'll see over and over again. Nobody is trying to work against the interests of women. It's just that there are other pressures over here that they have to deal with and knock their head against until they can get to solving the new problem that the Harridans have put across their fucking desk. Imagine the patriarchy. The patriarchy is the most harried, overworked bureaucrat in all of human history. And he keeps getting shunted more requests from the Harridans, and every time he's like, I just need some. Yeah, you are oppressing the women's. I just need time to make the laws work right, just so nothing collapses. Oh my God, I can't believe what you're doing. You just hate us. And that's just, imagine that, because that's what the reality is. That's what the reality is. Everything moved at the speed of bureaucracy and politics and law, and that was not fast enough for women, or at least some women. Okay, that's what they're complaining about. In every circumstance, when women said this is unfair, men changed it. And they changed it exactly at the speed that they could. And that is history. Period.
All right, let's do some more.
No, the first female millionaire was in the late 1800s.
And was that inherited?
No, it wasn't. It was self-made.
Yes,
it was.
Self-made.
Yes, it
and
was.
She never inherited that.
Yes, she did not
and what
inherit
law permitted that?
What
law permitted that?
Well, there was no law. I mean, there's always been women that were influential in history.
Let's get on to the vote. So
Really? I kind of want to know, like, who this first millionaire is from the 1800s. Of course, feminists. Oh, it's a black woman? What?
Sure.
I thought that was impossible. I'm pretty sure that's right. I mean, I don't doubt it. I don't think it's ridiculous. I just think it kind of goes against like all of these oppression narratives that we're bombarded with all the time. Can you imagine a millionaire black woman in the 1800s? Crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right.
Okay, I found it. Madam C.J. Walker. I'm going to give you this.
Yeah.
I believe that she was an African-American entrepreneur, philanthropist, and political and social activist. She's recorded as the first female self-made millionaire in America. British are a little bit different.
Put it in, well, that's okay. I mean, I don't think it's that different.
Because it wouldn't be millionaire. It'd be like what?
I don't know. Whatever, however many pounds that is. I mean, with inflation, a millionaire in the 1800s is like absolutely insane. So it's probably not, but maybe like when you account for it, it is like a millionaire.
Multiple sources. This is Wikipedia, but Wikipedia would have a tendency to deny this crap, so probably it's safe. Multiple sources mention that although other women, like Mary Ellen Peasant, might have been the first, their wealth is not as well documented. So she's the first female self-made. And get this woman on the here. Take a look. This is the first female self-made millionaire. And she was a self-made millionaire.
Did you put it in the live show chat or something?
Oh, sorry.
I see it. No, it's okay. I feel like if I put it on screen, because I have the colors all messed up and everything, but it's okay. I think people can look it up. Yeah, it's gonna look all weird. So
Madam C.J. Walker.
Yeah.
She founded the Madam C.J. Walker Manufacturing Company. So it's a line of cosmetics and hair care products for black women.
There you go. The first hair extension place was made by by Madam C.J. Walker in the 1800s. All right, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, nice, interesting but not shocking bit of trivia. It's almost like history is not
No.
as simple as it's often portrayed. Uh,
Yeah. And
yeah,
the other thing is that, and also women were inheriting.
yes.
And why is that so
I
like,
know,
oh,
like,
we
because
can't
men
include women
died.
inheriting.
Yeah, because
We can't
one.
include women inheriting
Yeah,
because men did it
yeah,
somehow.
yeah. Even though they
Men
probably
just,
died to give that to women, but yeah, sure. Or it
yeah.
was her father or something. Um, all right, so I got a bunch of messages now, so I should probably check them out real quick before we continue. So an anonymous person gave us $5 and says Roma is premiering right now. Her video is titled "At Just Pearly Things is a shit stain on men's rights." I don't know what that's about. I'll look into it later. She's probably not thrilled with Pearl's edgier stance on the vote. She probably watched this Piers Morgan thing, and now she's like, oh, so upset. But I mean, I think that whether or not, I think that like
Also,
if you're gonna play it really safe and just be like, men also get abused, right? Like, I mean, that's true, but I think there's nothing wrong with like really getting in there and saying something edgy. So I don't think, and you know what? I think even calling it edgy is a bit. It's like treating it like it's a troll, but the truth is, it is an important thing that we should talk about. And most people would not. I mean, the only person that was kind of tackling it on the legal front was Mark Angelucci, R.I.P. Mark. And so that's all we had. So why not? I mean, I say why not?
Well, I mean, and it's just something to talk about. We got to bring this up. At the very least, we
Yeah.
have to allow it to inform our understanding of reality.
It's part of the narrative, right? It's the
So
go-to. Like, women didn't get the vote until here, right? It's the first defense of feminism. And it's also the first defense of the feminism was once good, because the suffragette is where they go, right? It's where they go back to. And so, like, if you can debunk that, then they have no foundation to stand on. And that's why I think it's important to do that. Even if, like, I think the likelihood of the vote being eliminated for women is, like, almost zilch, like, completely not happening, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be talked about.
Well, yeah, because we need to let that inform our worldview. And here's the thing, like, whenever women got the vote, they certainly got it in a completely different circumstance than groups of men who were enfranchised, because all of them had to fight and die, and then they were considered. Women weren't. And we need to have that discussion about what society expects from men and how it does not expect the same thing from women.
Yeah.
Society runs on the sacrifice of men. It runs on the sacrifice of men. And you can see that with Ukraine. It's facing an existential crisis. What is the first thing it does? It goes and sacrifices all its men to it. Now, whatever side you're on, that is an uncontrovertible observation about what's going on there.
Yeah.
Okay? And then they are expected to do it. And if that kind of war came to any other Western nation, all of this gender shit gets thrown out of the window. You men are going to be fighting to preserve the country. You're going to be fighting to preserve all of the industry, all of the utilities, all of the benefits that women also enjoy, but do not have to die for. And if we're not going to have an honest discussion about what that means about men and women and their relative situation in society, we ought to have that honest discussion.
Yep.
Because the less honest we are with each other, with ourselves, the more likely pride comes before a fall. I think it's lies come before a fall. The inability to look at the truth comes before a fall. That's something that I've seen many, many times on a personal level with people. Things that they don't want to look at become their downfall. And that's true about societies too. Things that societies don't want to look at becomes their downfall. And one of the big things our society does not want to look at is the fact that it runs. It exists. It exists at all because of the sacrifice of men. And you can't just hide that behind, oh, well, it was other men enforcing this role on men. Well, yeah, because it's all about their sacrifice and their ability to sacrifice other men too.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
They are the ones who condition themselves to believe that their worth is protecting society. That's women. Women give them their habits of what should be expected of them. It's Hemingway's mother, who in many ways what laid the foundation for him to go off to war, and the expectation that he sacrifice for society. Okay? That's how it works. Okay. I'm good.
All right. So I got some super chats. Albert Nader Retro gives us $2 Canadian, says, it's times like this I wish Karen was here. You mean here on our show or on Piers Morgan? Because Karen won't go to the UK. So I don't really... And also, like, most mainstream media won't get people like Karen or Allison on because I think that it's... I don't know. I don't think they're partly because they don't know who they are, but also because it would probably not be good for them. So they think, and I think that Pearl is surprisingly competent here, and I think that she deserves credit. I know a lot of you guys don't want to give her credit, but I think that she deserves credit personally. I think way more than Roma, who is basically using this to attack Pearl, and I think that's just bitchy things to do, but that's because, it's like I said before, I said this to Allison before the show, I think that the difference between Roma and Pearl is that Roma is trying to maintain a level of status quo while also giving lip service to men, and I think Pearl is saying what needs to be said, even if she doesn't think it's likely that anything will change. So that's what I think. You guys think whatever you want. Catherine,
the conversations that need to happen.
just opening up the conversations that need to happen and not saying, well, this you can't discuss, right? Catherine Scully gives us $1.49 Canadian and just puts like a little emoji of a dog. I think that might be for Jojo. So Jojo, that's for you, buddy. All right. And Albert Nader Retro gives us $20 Canadian and says, Madam C.J. Walker, the first self-made female millionaire in the U.S., is the next female role model to be honored in Barbie's line of inspiring women's dolls. Walker, the daughter of former slaves, was born as Sarah Breedlove. So there you go, which we already talked about.
Okay. You know what? I'm okay with that. I'd like to see Harriet Tubman Barbie doll.
Whatever. Let's do it.
I'd like to see a Marie Curie Barbie doll with like in particular, it would be great if they highlighted what she did for men in World War I, because she created the first mobile X-ray unit to help diagnose their injuries and save lives.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something I found really impressive. How about a Florence Nightingale Barbie doll and Amelia Earhart? That would be a good one.
Mother Teresa.
Ayn Rand.
Ayn Rand. That'll never happen. Ayn Rand. Never happen. What's the name? Phyllis Schlafly? Never happen.
Yeah, but that's a little bit. I don't know. She's one of those conservatives who was misandrous and just wanted to keep the beanies for women.
Yeah.
She was worried that feminists were going to take away all the rights that women had to be supported by their husbands and have their debt taken over by men and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So she was totally against the ERA because she's worried that the women would have to be drafted and stuff. So she's a conservative that was completely motivated by misandry. But you know, like those
or
other
self-preservation, but yeah.
Or how about like science fiction writers like C.J. Sherrill, Joan Vinge, like Anne McCaffrey? That would be cool. Like a whole science fiction Barbie series. But I'm guessing that they won't be doing that.
Weeds. We're going to the weeds. Okay.
Yes.
So let's continue.
I don't understand is, a part of your message, I've researched you today, and hang on a minute.
Okay.
Your big push is that you care about men and you don't think that men are getting enough of a say. But
I care about
hang
women
on,
too.
I haven't
care
made the
about
point
women
yet, because of feminism, okay? What I wonder is when you start making calls out like repeal the 19th, women shouldn't be allowed to vote, how is that helping young men? Because these young men have women in their lives, they have mothers, they have sisters, they have teachers.
All right, stop.
They have teachers.
I'm pretty sure.
Who cares?
I'm pretty sure they have, this is the banana, right? 20 seconds?
Yeah, it's about that banana.
Because I don't want it to go over because we will get hit.
I know. It's okay.
Okay, so they have mothers, they have sisters, they have teachers. Okay, but yes, their mothers have them as sons, their sisters have them as brothers, and their teachers have them as students. So why doesn't it go the other way? Like, if we can't have this discussion, at the very least have this discussion and recognize that the vote came with significant sacrifice for men. Like, they didn't get it until they sacrificed. And it doesn't matter what people say about, selective service is blah, blah, blah. No, the vote, men didn't get the vote until they sacrificed in war. Even well into, like, the time of aristocracy, the men who had the most say in the government were the ones who could defend the nation's borders and allow everybody else to have a peaceful existence, trading with each other. Okay?
Yeah.
That's how it worked. And it's worked forever, really. Okay? So we have to have that discussion.
Yep.
And the fact that she's appealing to, that discussion is going to harm these boys. Well, it's harming the boys. Like, not having that discussion is harming them because it allows us to continue to perpetuate these fictions about society being for the benefit of men at the expense of women, despite society expecting men to sacrifice everything in its service and not expecting the same of women. See how that's impossible? Like, it's just wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And because we can't have this discussion because we might insult their teachers of all people, where we can harm the boys. We can continue to perpetuate a narrative that is destructive, psychologically destructive upon them.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
They turn around, they don't know how to act around women because you're giving them license to be misogynistic.
I wouldn't call it misogynistic. I say be equal.
So she's saying you're giving them license to be misogynistic because apparently if Pearl says, you know, we should probably look at the vote because it's not fair, and it's not, that's just a fact, that's not really deniable, then this woman is like, well, you're giving boys a license to be misogynistic because they're going to go around chanting, repeal the 19th, which I suggest the chat do right now, but but that's not that. First of all, that assumes that men are always on the verge of becoming misogynistic. This is like what the BBC did to Andrew Tate. They were like, oh, well, when you talk about men, but you're smoking a cigar and driving a Bugatti at the same time and drinking like, you know, expensive like booze or whatever, you're basically bringing a side order of misogyny. Don't be stupid. We know what you're doing. This is all emotional shit, in my opinion. We got a super chow from Betty Adams. For $5, $10. Is that like a donation to two donations? I don't know. And they say, utterly shameless shill, flying sparks, a science fantasy novel. Trees walk in the forest. Oh, this is a shill that they're making. Boulders dance on the mountains, and in the sky, the stars sing songs of war. 100,000 words of found family, fluff, and angst, and alien second contact. Live on Indiegogo and Kickstarter, Flying Sparks. I've heard of Flying Sparks. Isn't that, who wrote that? Is that John Delarose? I'm not sure if it is, but, let me know. Thank you, Betty Adams, for that.
It's Betty wrote it.
Oh, Betty wrote it. Well, thank you, Betty.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't know. Yeah, that sounds good. Check it out. Flying Sparks on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, guys. Sounds like a female-made science fiction novel. Let's write up. That's like somebody after Allison's heart. All right. Now the super chats. Thank you guys so much for these donations. Albert Nader Retros gives us $5 Canadian. Says, I'm gonna get that Madam C.J. Walker Barbie. By the way, all MRAs should. Well, I mean, let me know when it comes out. We'll do like maybe a spot on the news regarding that on HBR News.
Why not? Like, I have no problem celebrating women actually going out there and getting things done.
Women that do stuff. Don't sell a fucking Gloria Steinem doll. That's bullshit. Or a Margaret Sanger or a you know Julie Bindle. No, none of those, please. But okay, Land Ray. I'm just gonna say Ray gives us $5 and says, my father and mother were Schlafly's executive and secretary. Everything Allison says about her is true. She fought ERA to make men financial tools. All right. Thank you for that. And I guess we'll get back to the video. Appreciate everybody. And go again, check out Flying Sparks, Betty Adams on Indiegogo and Kickstarter. All right.
Well, again, men do all of that. Well, then, okay, I'd love for the feminists, please apply for the oil rigs. Please go do the hard jobs in society. They're open, they're hiring, because I don't equate for, I don't think men or women are equal until we do the equal work. So no, listen, go apply to be on the oil rigs, go be a plumber, go be an electrician, go be on the front lines of the military, and then we should have equal rights. But until feminists are willing to do that, I don't believe we should have the freedom without the responsibility.
Okay, well, I don't think that I'm physically built for that. You might be, but I'm at
Oh!
That was a bitch move.
Oh, that was, yes.
Oh, look at the little demure doll head shape.
Can't get into it because they would never understand.
Oh, that was some mean girl shit right there. You might be built for it. I know.
Look at what she's doing here. Oh, fuck. You do not deserve rights. argument against women having rights.
Yes.
Look at you. Look at you and your little fucking demure head shake. Oh, I'm just a little doll of a woman. Well, then be a little doll on a shelf without the ability to move from it. Ugh. Anyway, this just really disgusts me.
Yeah. Jojo's moving around. Is he going back to bed? He's going. Go ahead, Jojo. It's okay. All right. He's like super suspicious of me. Yeah. So that was kind of. I'm gonna play that again in case you guys missed the oozing passive aggression. I know she's so smug.
No, that is. Oh yeah, I guess you're right. That is like a backhanded insult or backhanded
Absolutely. You got the shoulders for it. I mean,
Pearl
Pearl is kind of a masculine woman, so but like, yeah, that's a really bitchy thing to do. But whatever. You guys have to pay attention when they do this bitchy shit, like for real.
We should have the freedom without the responsibility.
Okay, well, I don't think that I'm physically built for that. You might be, but I'm absolutely
That's
not.
a
You,
bit-
no, but you
Wow.
said you were a
Wow,
volleyball.
wow.
You said you were a volleyball player, and so you've got
I
more
wanna
strength
see-
than I do.
Oh, what?
Did you see? Like, okay, look at the expressions. Go
Yeah.
back to the moment after she says.
But you're breaking up. You're breaking up. What was that? You said something? You're kind of
Sorry,
going
why
a
would I
little
be breaking
robotic.
up?
It just did for a second, but
Okay.
it's not now. It's not now. Okay.
Okay,
Go
just
back
go
to-
back to the moment where she landed that shit. Where it landed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll play it from here.
Freedom without the
Okay,
responsibility.
well, I don't think that I'm physically built for that. You might be, but I'm absolutely
That's
not.
Yeah.
Oh my! Look at that! Look at all the expressions. They're disgusting. And then of course Pearl knows exactly what she's just said.
Yeah.
And she just smiles. It's like, okay, all right. Yeah, I'm not physically built for that. I don't have the constitution. I don't know, lady. I think you might be physically built for it too. You know,
Mhm.
certainly you got enough plumpery there to survive some wilderness training or some Arctic training there.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's unbelievable. Just the sheer cattiness. And right here,
Oh,
this is where
absolutely.
she should be just escorted off and said, "You have nothing to add,
Mm-hmm.
nothing." And it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. So you're gonna sit behind your physical capabilities. You're gonna
Yeah.
sit behind your physical capabilities, your
Yeah.
biologicalness. You're gonna sit behind it. You're gonna get all of the rights, but none of the responsibilities because of your biology. Well, maybe your biology should exclude you from the responsibilities too, if you do not have from the rights too, if you do not have the responsibilities.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's keep going.
But I'm absolutely
That's
not.
a
You,
bit-
no, but you
Wow.
said you were a
Wow,
volleyball.
wow.
You said you were a volleyball player, and so you've got more strength than I do. I don't think
But
that
I don't
can
have more
do
strength.
those
I don't have more
jobs.
strength
But
than
I'm
the
not going
average
to take your
man.
rights away to
I don't
do
have.
it.
I don't have more strength than the average man. But again, it goes back to go be a plumber. You want to be equal, go be
That's
equal.
not what I do.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be a volleyball player to be a plumber or an electrician or work in sanitation. The truth is, most women don't want to do those things. And Pearl is right for bringing this up. She's like, oh, you want to be like men? Go be an Alaskan fisherman. Go work in the sewers. Go build a house. Go work in construction. Go to a coal mine. You know, like go to an oil rig. I'm not complaining about those things. So yeah, I work in a pretty comfy job from my house on my computer. But I'm not complaining.
Nope.
I'm very grateful. But she's not, right? She's like, well, women should. And Pearl's just saying things are not equal. And frankly, I don't think they can be. Like, not in the way that, the only way that I think it would be fair, simply because men and women are different and our society prioritizes women over men. And I don't think that that's likely to change. So, but that being said, you know, I think maybe that's what Pearl's trying to get at. Maybe she's trying to get people to think about trying to treat women exactly the same as men. Because maybe she knows that that's not how it's going to pan out, right? And maybe this feminist knows that that's not how it's going to pan out.
Yeah, she exactly knows.
Yeah.
Because any smart feminist knows that what they're playing on, what they're banking on, is the fact that society sacrifices men for the and generally for the benefit of society, and that generally translates to the benefit of women. That's what they're banking on. That society wants to protect and provide women, that we have these instincts to protect and provide women. So she's banking on, she knows it.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's that
she has to.
snide and passive aggressive without having some kind of a greater knowledge. But what Pearl is getting at, it's really interesting. And I don't know if she's there yet, but right now, if you think about it, men occupy the majority of the professions and the work that is required to make sure society exists tomorrow. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, it would be a little bit rocky if women walked off the job. Okay? But if women walked off the job, what they would be walking into is into doing their own childcare, doing their own teaching, doing their own cooking, doing their own all of those things, because those are the jobs that women have. So if those jobs disappeared, then women would have to take up the slack at home. See how that works? Like if they stopped doing those jobs, all of the women would just be pushing the work back on each other. Okay? And that would be their deal, right? But if men walked off the job, it would be a disaster we would never recover from. Okay? We wouldn't have a society within like 3 days ever again. Men are absolutely critical to running society, not just protecting it now, and they are critical to running it. Now, this is new. This is very new. This hasn't been the case throughout most of human history. Throughout most of human history, women were absolutely critical to the running of society. And in some ways, in some cases, men's work could be a little bit more of a optional. It was more about status. It was more about bringing the extras into the household, the stuff that makes, gives a better status of living. Whereas women were about making sure everybody had water, had heating, had lighting, had shelter, had edible food in the winter, that kind of thing. So for the longest time, women were very critical to everybody's survival. At the very least, equally critical to that as men. This is new. And this is very new to this society. It's very new to the West. Because if you go into other societies, it's still true that women are absolutely critical to the maintenance of their families. It's why people in societies that aren't like modern finance like ours and have all these modern utilities and modern conveniences are like, no, women have to stay in the home. You know what they're actually saying? Yes, because if women are not in the home, everyone dies. Okay? That's the translation. Women need to be in the home because if they don't do it, everyone dies. All right. Now, we're not like that here. Men in the West are 100% critical to the running of our society. And yet, they have less and less and less of a say in it. And we are constructing this two-tier system with women as a gigantic voting bloc constantly voting to take more from men. More wars. More tax benefits. More beanies. Now this whole forgiving student loan, which really only applies to not like the engineers and everybody goes into a trade, but applies to the people who go into things that are never going to make them money, right? And that's like majority women, right? So they're constantly voting for more stuff. They are constructing an aristocracy out of themselves, and they have the majority say. The government wants to appeal to them. Politicians want to appeal to them. Even conservative politicians are more likely to appeal to women than men, or women's issues than men's issues. Sorry, I got a dog hair. I swallowed a dog hair.
Ew.
Sometimes
JoJo's hairs, they're like they like stab Lindsay. I've never had that problem. His hair's not wiry, but she'll find it like in her leg.
Okay, well, yeah, I've found cat
Weird.
hairs like that. It's really weird.
Yeah.
My dog sheds a lot, but so men are critical to the running of society, and yet they have less say in it than the people who are taking the most in terms of tax dollars and attention and consideration and even like emotional stuff. Like we put women's emotional feelings. So we don't want to talk about how men are actually critical to the running of society because women might be insulted. We don't want to talk about the realities of the vote because women might feel insulted. Well, what about this underclass that we're constructing of men who are 100% responsible for the perpetuation of our living into the future and have absolutely no potential of having a family, having a legacy, having children, or even being recognized for what they're doing? Like, this is not a tenable situation. This is the makings of a French Revolution, and it's completely justified. Because if one group is taking, another group is giving, eventually that group, if there's no, and the reason why that it was working now is because we appeal to this idea that providing and protecting women. But more and more, they're trying to erode that very idea and construct men as an enemy class.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you do that, you construct this, and it's even if men never engage in any kind of revolution, which is possible because that's a really strong instinct to provide and protect for women and to prevent any violence done to them. And considering that the two classes are basically men and women, that instinct will likely protect women as a class. But it's unbelievably unjust. And then to turn around and tell the men in this situation, the men on the bottom who are building all the shit for the women on the top, that they are actually being benefited by it. It's like gaslighting on a civilization scale. It's astounding. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway, and I think that she's sort of getting on the edge of that.
Yeah, she is, I think. All right, let's play some more. I got another super chow. Two more, actually. Anonymous gives us $8, thank you, and says, do they view Pearl as low-hanging fruit? Do they think they can bring her on and make her look like some self-hating extremist? I'd buy a Karen Strawn comic book. Also, do you have the Why Pastor meme? Well, I don't know what the Why Pastor meme is. I'll look it up later. I don't know. I mean, I think the feminist on there is, like, if you look at it like this, okay? I think Piers Morgan is kind of dopey, doesn't really know, probably doesn't think this is very important, and he's just having fun with the drama. And he's kind of like challenging Pearl on some stuff, which I can understand if you're ignorant. That's how it is. And I say that not as an insult, but just as an observation. The feminist she is defending the status quo. Period. They all do it. It doesn't matter. Like they bring up like the 101 flavors of feminism. Like I'm for choice feminism. I'm for workers feminism. I'm for intersectional. It doesn't matter. They're just defending the status quo. As long as it lands on some blank feminism, then they win no matter what. And she's defending that status quo, and Pearl is challenging the status quo. I mean, that's what I think. Does that mean that Pearl should not herself be challenged on things? Of course it doesn't. Of course she should if such a thing comes up. But I think that she would. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't matter if she will welcome it or not. But that's just what it has to be. So, thank you, Anonymous. Plain Dane gives us $5 and says, I think this mean girl can survive a famine or two. Yeah, I see what you're saying. All right, anyway.
I think she's understating the robustness of her constitution.
Yeah.
I think that she should really give herself more credit for her mass.
All right, let's play a little more.
Also, but you want divorce to be made illegal.
Yes.
Why?
Yes, because I don't think what we have today is really marriage. What is marriage? It's for better or for worse, for richer or for poor, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. That's what marriage is supposed to be. But feminists have ruined marriage for the people that actually believe in marriage.
How?
When there's a 50% divorce rate and the average marriage
Why is that all down
8
to the
years.
women, though?
Why does it come down to women?
Why is it
Because
all
they initiate like 80% of divorces, and most of the time it's because they're just bored. Yeah, I mean, like
the man lost a job.
Yeah, a man loses a job, a man's status changes, a man decides I'll be the stay-at-home dad, you continue to be the boss bitch, and then she's like, oh my god, my man is beta, I'm gonna leave him. That's why.
Yeah, and even feminists use that term beta. The thing is that, could you imagine how saying to a woman, richer or poorer, so that when poorer comes, the man actually still has someone to help him get back on his feet, how that would benefit society overall. You know what I mean? Like, to be able to just have a little bit of consideration and not just be treated in such a mechanistic fashion. But like, what's wrong with everybody else having common law and marriage being till death do you part? That's it. You got it.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't think the government should be involved in marriage anyway. I think it should be like it should be a religious union, I suppose, right? You can have a common law thing instead, but like if the government's involved, that becomes a problem because I think that's when you get into this sort of muddy territory of what is considered marriage and can people be married under God, because people who tend to get married do so in a religious context, so I don't think the government should be involved with that. I understand that People think, I don't know why, but people seem to think that if the government's not involved, then it's not real. But I think that's part of the problem, personally. I think that people should get married in a religious context, and if not, then you can have something that's like that, like you said, a civil union or a common law thing or whatever. This way, you don't have to worry about like the transes getting married, the gays getting married. You're not pushing this on people, you know, in the religious community that don't agree with it. And it's just everybody can just do it on their own terms and handle it themselves. That's how I see it. But
yeah.
But as far as
the alternative is just get rid of all the beanies for women in divorce. Like,
yeah,
you walk away with the property you brought in, and you get no alimony, you get no child support, and equal custody of the children.
Yeah.
Unless you can prove to a criminal court standard that someone's abusive.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I think so. I think Pearl is making
real divorce. Like, make it so that men can walk away, not just still be married, because that's what the situation is now. Women can get a divorce, men can't. Men don't get divorces.
Right.
Men just stack marriages.
Yes. And the other thing is, I think, you know, in case people think that what Pearl is saying is like really, really over the top, hyperbolic, I think it's another one of those things like the vote where is she actually going to get like marriage made illegal or divorce illegal? Probably not. That's like, there's almost no way that's going to happen. Our society is way too gynocentric. We care way too much about women. But if you overshoot the target, then, you know, if it becomes a conversation, then maybe you'll still hit the target you meant to hit by just pulling it back a bit, right? Maybe doing something about family courts. Governor DeSantis signed a bill, I think it was yesterday, that removed permanent alimony, which, you know, obviously there are men and women that both pay alimony, but it's overwhelmingly men that do it. And they do it, like, and they lose their retirement. They have to work until they die. And you know, this is Florida, which is like has an older population, so there's more people that are coming close to or retiring, and I think that's a step in the right direction, right? Because then alimony doesn't just become this thing you cash in on when you feel like it. You know, like these I think marriage should be taken very seriously. I took my vows with Lindsay, and I take the vows very seriously, and she does too. So I think that's how it should be, and I just think that now too many people treat marriage like it's dating. Like, well, I guess we're breaking up, you know? And I don't think that that's how it should be. I mean, I think that it's a very important step, and you should be very, very serious when you make it. And, I don't think that it should be treated so trivially, and I think that's what it is now. It's very trivial. So, I mean, look at Hollywood. How many times do those people get married and divorced? It's crazy. That shit shouldn't happen, you know? Anyway, let's keep going.
I didn't say that it was all down to the women.
Why feminism?
You asked why I want divorce to be banned.
Yeah.
Can I finish that first? So I'm saying, you know, the people that believe in divorce, go be in long-term relationships. Leave marriage for the people that actually believe in, for better or for worse, for richer or for poor, in sickness and in health, till death do us part.
But doesn't the sanctity of marriage also rely on the woman being a virgin? So you wouldn't be able to get married.
Whoa! Obviously, Pearl's not a virgin, but this woman is trying to bring in elements that Pearl didn't bring in. So, you know, we know that the sexual revolution has changed things a lot. And, you know, there are arguments that could be made that it's for the worse in a lot of ways. But trying to throw this, well, only virgins can get married thing in her face, she never brought that up, and that's very dishonest. So, in my opinion, but I don't know if Allison wants to speak to that, or should I just keep going? Okay, well,
no, that's okay. I almost whatever.
All right.
It's just, it sounds like it's like really becoming a cat fight.
It is turning into a cat fight. Yes. All right, let's keep going.
I guess it's entertaining in its way.
It does have its way, and I like to see like these women get feisty and you know, because I do think that like I said, I'm glad that this cat fight is happening. So.
What do you mean?
Well, you've spoken quite openly about how you're not a virgin, and so if you want to preserve that sanctity of marriage, then I just think that you're upholding standards that you don't actually live by.
You know, and that's a fair complaint. I wish I was, but you know, we can't go back. I don't know what you want me to say.
Yeah, but I just don't think it's fair that you get to be here and you get to be paid for your views, and you're telling other women that they shouldn't be allowed to.
I think.
Hang on.
What? Again, just for clarify, okay? Pearl didn't say that you have to be a virgin when you get married. She never said that. And this woman is putting that on her because she has a straw man idea of what Pearl's argument is, and she's trying to use that. I would have said, I didn't say that at all. I understand that we all like made choices when we were younger, and maybe there are a lot of women that want to course correct. And maybe this is something they should think about, because there are a lot of women that want to course correct, that they did, you know, whatever they did when they were in their teens or when they were in college or whatever, and now they're like, oh, you know what, I think I might have fucked up. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. Men too. Why not? What were you gonna say, Allison?
Well, what I was gonna say is that could you imagine this is basically a rehash of the original arguments around the vote?
Yeah.
You got a suffragette and either a suffragist, who Pearl would be the suffragist, or a woman who's just like, I don't want the vote. And we're just seeing it in real time. And then the dude is like, okay, who wins? I'll go with whoever wins.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
But okay, so what does Piers in his infinite wisdom have to say?
Oh, let's find out.
Incidentally, wasn't he canceled or something?
Well, that's why he's got his own show, because he used to be on like the BBC or something, and now he's doing his own thing.
You know that moral puritanism is a very feminine virtue, by the way, very feminine pursuit that gets people like Piers canceled. So it's interesting how he's like, oh no, we can't question how women are basically controlling everything.
Yeah.
And to the exclusion of the masculine toolkit, which probably would have prevented him from being censored in the first place. Okay.
Okay, if I may, at some stage jump in. Isn't the whole point of being a feminist, though, that women are entitled to have their own views?
Absolutely. And
so she's perfectly entitled to her views.
Yeah, but you can't.
You might not like them.
But I'm here to challenge
Isn't she exercising her right as a... Are you a feminist?
No, I am not.
Really?
No, I don't go that far.
You don't want to be a feminist?
No, because I think if feminists really believed in equality, but you guys don't, I would love for you. There is an oil rig hiring.
Okay, I'm just pausing it there. Just so that we don't, get in the way of the banana. There's always a banana on the horizon. And, so Piers, that's a good point, although I don't think that you should even use the word feminist to describe anything positive, but...
There's an engineer...
I would actually love...
Obviously, feminists are not actually allowed... feminists don't actually want women to believe whatever they want to believe. They obviously don't. So that's not really a virtue of theirs. It's just not.
Okay, what are they lobbing at her?
Well, no, Piers is talking to the feminist woman. He said, well, doesn't feminism mean that women are allowed to voice their opinions, right? Like have a voice, as it were. And she was like, well, of course. And then he was like, well, then why can't Pearl have these views? And then Pearl, I think, kind of cut in and said, well, if oil rigs are hiring, why don't you, if feminists actually care about, because he asked her if she was a feminist, and she's like, no. And then he was like, well, why not? And she was like, well, because they don't actually care about equality, right? And I mean, I think that equality is a stupid thing to strive for anyway, but at least if we're gonna talk about it, justice would be fine. But if we're gonna shoot for it, then let's really shoot for it and don't just talk about it while not doing it. So
seriously. There is a building being built next to my building. Go do it, feminists. Go do it. And me, I'm
doing the same job that I'm doing right now.
When you find the man you want to get married to, are you saying you will be with that man whatever happens for the rest of your life?
Yes, for the vows that we're supposed to live by.
How do you know you can?
All right.
How do you know? This is the thing. It's like, no. People make these assumptions about what they say. Yes, it's for better or for worse. And yes, that means worse.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you know it's not going to be worse? Well, it says better or for worse. Okay, but let's hear what he has to say.
Well, I mean, when I was in the hospital, so I got sick in January, and I was really sick. I didn't realize that I was dying. And they saved my life in the hospital. And Lindsay called the ambulance, and they picked me up, and they took me down there, and I blacked out. I don't remember what happened. I lost a day of time, and then some spots while I was in the hospital because of this fungal infection in my nervous system, in my brain, and I had a parasite. I was in really big trouble. And she could have left. She could have just left. but she didn't. She came to visit me in the hospital every single day and stayed with me for as long as she was able to, and called me and checked on me. And there was no one else. I was in Virginia. I didn't have my family with me. I didn't have any of my friends with me. The only person I knew was her. And she could have left. And that was probably like the toughest time that we both had. And she stayed. That's not impossible, right? We made a promise to each other. So, you know, and I'm, you know, a lot of people don't think that this is possible in like the modern day. I think it's entirely possible, but people have to stick to their guns. You have to stick to your guns.
Stick to their word.
Yeah,
and it's
exactly.
easier for women. It's easier for women because they have all of these social safety nets.
Right.
So it's less meaningful because you have someone who's got your back, right?
Yeah.
And Lindsay has someone who's got her back. But because of all these stupid social safety nets and all this division, it's less meaningful for women because somebody else will step in.
Yeah.
To have her back. And so a woman not only has to, when they're making those kinds of vows, not only do you have to say, I'll have your back, but you also have to say, I'm not going to let someone else step in between us if I need you to have my back.
Yep.
And that's hard. They talk. I've read recently all this. They bring up the statistic about how women who get like seriously ill end up divorced more often than the reverse.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe that's why. Maybe it's because they would rather the state have their back than their partner, because it just feels like when they're vulnerable, the state is just bigger and more powerful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They're gonna want to be with the strongest man, and the state is the strongest.
So they leave because the statistic doesn't indicate who's leaving who. It's entirely possible that the women are leaving the men when they're sick, and for a variety of reasons, and that could be one of them.
Yeah.
So
there was a video. I mean, not a video. There was a news story. Wasn't there a news story recently of a man that like got cancer, like stage 4 or something? I mean, I also had cancer, and Lindsay stuck by me through that too. But this guy got cancer, and I think that he was either he died or he was in a coma, and his ex-wife or his wife, widow, whatever, I'm not sure, but she like went on a vacation or something. Like she was just like out doing like vacation shit while this guy was suffering. She didn't stand by him. She didn't visit him in the hospital. So I mean, it's really like messed up, but it does happen. And of course, why couldn't? I mean, we basically incentivize this behavior. So no, not Fetterman, although his wife did do that too. It was another story. I'll have to look it up. But what was that?
Nobody understands that anymore. Like they don't understand making a vow, sticking to your word, being with the person, better or worse.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes people can make it really difficult to be with them. But when you stick with them, you are learning to understand another human being, and you're learning to try to speak their language and try to break through the problems that they have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's something that's worth pursuing because you become a better person yourself.
Yeah.
And like, yeah. But what the hell does she have? What does
Let's keep going. Let's see.
You can keep them.
I mean, I think it's a choice. And that's the thing, like women are so willing to leave marriages because they're not happy. This is not about happiness. The most important thing is the children. And the problem is we have a modern society where it's me, my feelings, leave when I feel like it, instead of doing what's best for the kids.
Ava, I've got to say, it's a little bit listening to Andrew Tate, where some of it I really don't agree with. I don't agree with the vote stuff. When I hear things like that, I think there'll be a lot of people, especially older generation women perhaps, who think, you know what, she's got a point.
I believe in agency, so I think that if a woman is going to look after her children in divorce, that's absolutely fine. I also believe in...
All right, I'm pausing it there. Sorry.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
I was trying... No, it's just that my mouse kind of froze on me for a second. I was trying to pause it, but it was weird, yeah.
Might have got...
Hopefully we're okay. I mean, at worst, maybe they'll do a copyright claim or we'll be demonetized. But
cut it out.
We don't monetize our videos anyways. So,
intervals that are absolutely. I also okay. So what snotty thing is this woman gonna say?
All right, let's find out real quick. I also believe
in your right to speak your mind about it. What I don't understand.
I'd like to say, even before the 1920s, women could speak openly. This idea that like women couldn't talk the last 500 years, there have been women throughout history.
The American state education system has failed before, and it's failing now.
Yeah, no,
The American school system has failed. What?
I don't know what she's gonna say, but Pearl's right. I mean, this feminist woman is gonna try and say that women only just got their voice, like, you know, this morning or something.
What about prohibition?
Yeah.
What about prohibition? That's ridiculous. Women have always had a say. What we're doing is we're going back through history and we're looking at all of the restrictions on women, and we're not seeing the obligations placed on men and how those obligations were actually really onerous and required sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you see a restriction on a woman, there is a corresponding obligation that requires tremendous sacrifice from men.
Yeah.
That's what I've seen throughout history. And you guys are creating a distorted view of history, which is creating a distorted view of the relationship between the sexes, which is then creating a distorted society, which is going to implode.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot keep lying to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. I got some super chats and super chows. I'm gonna read those really quick. Plain Dane gives us $13. Thank you, Plain Dane, and says men literally have thicker skin. That's probably why you don't have the fur issue Lindsay has. Testosterone makes your skin thicker by making collagen fibers denser. Generally, men's skin is about 25% thicker than women's. We also have slightly more melanin. That's why we age better. And then I guess he also gives $9. Thank you again, and says we also have thicker skin, figuratively speaking. Lindsay is a top G. Yes, she is. She is the top G. And I'm going to pick her up shortly and tell her that to her face. So thank you, Plain Dane. Albert Nader Retro gives us $10 Canadian and says, this is on Super Chat, Mama and Papa Nada just made 51 years, with Papa having had 5 heart attacks starting at 33. Their mutual motive, it would take too long to train a new one. LOL. Well, I'm glad that they're still together, because that's something, that's super wholesome. Yeah. Everybody let Albert know that's super wholesome. And Rumble Gang, I see you all. What's up? Okay, back to the video.
Yeah, I wanted to say that's the kind of humor I was talking about in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because I know that men and women rib each other, and that's fine. But what I'm seeing is, a lot of the stuff that feminists really get up in arms about with men is just ribbing about the craziness of women, and it's not intended to be mean-spirited at all. Mm-hmm. And generally, with everything that men say about women, there still is this kind of attitude that they're worth it, or at least there was. I don't think there is anymore.
Do you remember that reminds me? Do you remember that show that you really got into? I can't remember the name of it, but it was like with Lee Pace, and they were starting up. Halt and Catch Fire, right? So there was a scene, I think it was in the first season. You asked me about it, and you made a video about it, where Lee Pace's character is like making out with a girl. I don't know if it was the girl or someone else, but he says something like kind of flirty and a little bit neggy, and she gets really upset. And you were like asking me about it, and I said he's just fucking with her, like it's flirtation. And
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's
what happened was, and I usually don't like cold sex opens, but he was trying to get this college student to come be part of his company. She was like a computer science whiz, and they ended up having sex in the back room of
like a supply room or something.
Arcade.
I vaguely remember. Yeah.
And he was like, he's saying this doesn't mean you get the job, and he was saying it sounded harsh, but I'm like, no, that's probably because he just finished having sex with her. And she really got offended.
Yeah.
And and I was thinking, this just seems like it's a continuation of their playful banter, but the way that they set it up was, this is a sociopath or something.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I'm just saying, like, that's kind of the same kind of humor, I mean, that's just the way a healthy person will find that is funny, because they will have a sense of humor. Okay. Thank you guys for all the super chats. Wow, very active chat today. Okay, let's play a little bit more.
For Wednesday.
Yeah, not bad.
And there have been women throughout history that have read, written, and been very influential in society.
Okay.
So this idea like women could never do it.
Do you know
don't
what
believe
I
it.
don't understand though is when it gets spiteful, okay? Because you put down a few arguments that I think are perfectly, like, you know, they're kind of evangelical and they're Christian, but those are your right to say it. What I don't understand is when it kind of seeks into this sort of, you call women fat, you say that they shouldn't have
Are they
abortions.
fat?
All right,
Okay,
let me just. Yeah, let me just say, this feminist is trying to, again, she's throwing whatever at the wall to see if it sticks. I've never heard Pearl say anything about religion. I haven't watched every video, but to my knowledge, I don't think she's a Christian. And so she's trying to say, oh, you're like an evangelical Christian. I don't think so. Like that, I'm sorry, but that's just not true. You're just trying, again, guilt by association. It's BS. Stop it. Okay, what were we going to say? About being fat?
Am I getting this right? Like, did you not just... Like, honestly, do you think it's somehow better when you do it directed at her?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're just accusing her. What did you just say to her?
You look like you could work on an oil rig or something like that.
Yeah, you look like you could. You look like you could bench press.
Yeah.
You look like a man, Pearl. Like, you have no basis to now chat about this.
Like Dr. Girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
I've had enough of this.
I actually really like Dr. Girlfriend.
No, I love Dr. Girlfriend.
But yeah, like she's what the hell? Like, you just got through throwing shade at Pearl for being a robust woman.
Mm-hmm.
How dare you turn around and throw shade and say that, oh, well, what about you calling women fat? Lady, last time I checked, a fat woman could get thin. Pearl's not about to be able to get rid of her shoulders.
Yep.
No, and her chest.
She's just a husky woman. That's okay?
And her height. Yeah, like, but here's the thing, it's nothing she can do anything about.
No. I mean, Lindsay's kind of a truckosaurus too, but that's all right. I like her like that.
The patrons say that I'm a short stack.
You're kind of like a Belgian waffle. But I don't know, like a stack of Eggos. Anyway, let's play the rest. This is almost over. So she's trying to just get her to say, oh, well, you've called women fat. It's like, she's just out of options. You can see she's throwing knives, and Pearl's just deflecting them. And Piers is like trying to figure out what to not like, but he can't really find. He's like, oh, you do kind of remind me of Andrew Tate. So what? What does that even mean? So yeah, I mean,
Piers, just
shut up.
Imagine watching this cat fight in the 1900s.
Yeah, I know.
The women who don't want the vote and do want the vote. Mm-hmm. And you're just sitting there in your three-piece suit with your, like, eyepiece.
Yeah, your monocle. And you're like, what? What is this thottery? What is with this thottery? Yeah. I say.
What do I do?
Big handlebar mustache. Yeah, right. It's a hullabaloo, I say. All right. Anyway. Okay.
You say that they have ethnicities.
I mean, the question is, are they fat? Yes or no? The average American woman is 170 pounds. That's objectively overweight.
I mean, let's be honest. We now celebrate morbid obesity as some kind of body positive thing, and it is complete nonsense. So actually, on that point again, there's a bit of truth.
And this is the problem.
How have we come to celebrate morbid obesity as body positive?
Well,
all right. I mean, that's kind of an obvious thing, though. I mean, he can't possibly deflect. Like, oh, women aren't fat. No, that's like, does this outfit make my ass look fat? You can't answer that question as a man. Just run. So he, but he can't avoid it. He's just like, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to agree.
Nonsense.
We're not talking about morbid obese. I was actually watching your podcast earlier, and you spoke to someone who was, I would say, probably a size 12, and you called her fat, obese, and a divorcee.
She was fat, obese, and a divorcee. I mean, like, I don't know what to say. This is the thing, women, we don't want to live in reality. We don't want to say things that are true. Was she fat? Yes. Was she a divorcee? Yes. These things are just objective facts.
Okay, I'm going to have to objectively...
Was she really a size 12, though? Or is she exaggerating?
Well, I mean, the feminist girl is saying she looked like a size 12. I don't know. I mean, like... But that doesn't really matter. Like,
yeah, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter. I mean, in general, we're all fat. Like, that's that's just the truth, right? The obesity is a big problem, especially in the United States. But she was in London, so it's probably a big thing in the UK and all over the West. Period. Right? It's the quality of our food, not necessarily the quantity, although we do live in a time of excess. And the point though is that is not an insult, it is an observation. It's just the reality. And this feminist woman does not like that that she's saying that.
Well, I mean, maybe calling her a beast is an insult, but
maybe they were arguing. I don't know the context though. Maybe she was calling her names too.
The thing is that, is it really like, I mean, as you get older, you get more physical challenges, right?
Mm-hmm.
And more things that you have to overcome and you have to support each other through. So all of that is, I would say all of the look stuff is sort of secondary, and it's not completely unimportant. But the divorcee, the feminist will most invariably mean that she has a huge chip on her shoulder when it comes to men, which means she doesn't appreciate men and masculinity. She probably doesn't think it's a situation where she has to uphold her word to her male partner and actually treat him like a companion and not a convenience, or feel like she's completely owed by him. So all of that stuff, I think, comes into play a lot more than necessarily whether or not she's a size 12 or whatever. I mean, people have a right to their looks, but I don't focus on that. I focus on how you are as a person.
Yeah.
Are you a decent person? And are you willing, at the bare minimum in a relationship with a man, are you willing to appreciate, that he's a man and his masculinity, however he expresses it, even if he's a femboy. You know what I mean? Because femboys are still masculine, to a degree. Like, I mean, look at David Bowie. He's like super androgynous, and yet he still manages to pull off being like unrepentantly masculine sexuality. I don't know how he manages it or managed.
Masculinity is not a box. It is.
Yeah,
I don't want to say it's a spectrum because that's bullshit too. But there's a lot of variety. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways.
There's a lot of variety in masculinity. Ways of
doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, because I look at David Bowie, androgynous, but still very masculine somehow. And also all the hair metal and all of that other stuff.
Yep. Poison.
Fun,
Yep.
Yeah, just lots of fun. But are you a person who can appreciate a man because he's a man? That aspect of him, which is a fundamental aspect of being a man, is being a man. And being masculine. Can you appreciate that? And if you can't, what the hell are you doing? Have a relationship with a man. Go get yourself one of the new genders. One of the pastel flavors. Go get yourself something you'll enjoy more.
Yep.
Anyway, that's my opinion.
That's basically the end. I mean, it ends right after that, so we did pretty good.
No more catfight?
No, I mean, like, he ends it. He says, I'm just going to, stop it there, because I think he could see that things were just starting to get a little out of control. So, but we got through the whole video, and right on time for me to, go pick up my wife at her job. So this worked out pretty well, and I read all of the super chats, which were a lot. I mean, we got a lot of support this time. Thanks, guys. Really great. I don't know if you want to give any final thoughts, but I think we can wrap it up. Jojo is ready to go, right, Jojo? You want to go get Mom?
We're in the weeds here.
Yeah.
They're talking about who's insulting who.
What?
Piers, you gotta wade in there, and you gotta pull the women apart. You gotta solve this because you're a man.
Get in there. Take away their voice. You know that you can just do that at the drop of a hat, right? Just snap your fingers and make them shut up, because that's what men do. And have always done throughout history.
Women get into a fight, a man makes a decision, and then suddenly the man is in the wrong because he took away their voice.
Yes.
But is there anything left? Is that just it?
I mean, I could just play the last of it. It's only like a few, 10 seconds. So
I have to objectively end the debate, but it was an interesting conversation. I think we should get you two back together as a matter of urgency. Thank you very much, Pearl. Thank you, Ava.
That's it. So he says, we'll have to bring it back on, and Pearl's like, absolutely. And I'm like, absolutely. Because she hopefully, well, I mean, look, Allison, I don't know. People talk about why don't you like Ethan? He's like, why don't you talk to academic feminists? Like, Pearl literally on this. show. I'll tell you why. Because it doesn't matter. Like, you can get like the fucking the overlord high priest of feminism on, and they're gonna say the same bullshit. It's not gonna change anything. You know, so I mean, hopefully they'll get somebody who's a little bit less catty. Maybe get a man on there. Maybe that's what you need. Get Michael Kimmel on there or something. I don't think he's doing anything right now. But I think that...
Man, I would love to debate Michael Kimmel.
Yeah, I know, right? And his like...
Yeah, well, I recently had an exchange with him on Twitter, and I was like, you know, the somebody who did your man box, so there was a study on the man box, and they found that men who were in the man box, according to your research, actually felt more capable of crying in front of their friends and expressing themselves in front of their friends. And he didn't even know that research existed. This is your fucking conjecture, dude. Don't you pay attention to it?
No, it doesn't bring in the big bucks. I mean, they gotta keep the scam going, you know? It's the only way. Hi, Jojo. Look at that. Look at that close up. Look at that. I'm gonna boop his snoot. Boop.
Oh, I can't
Boop.
see it.
I booped the snoot.
Wait, I can see it on Twitter.
Boop the snoot, guys. Just put a little hand in the chat to boop Jojo's snoot. So anyway,
I want to see the snoot. I want to see it. I don't see it.
What are you? I'm sorry, I can't share both things at once. I guess. Hold on. Let me.
No, wait. I can see it.
All right.
Find it. I'll find it on Twitter.
All right. So anyway, I did get one more super chat from I did. Wait, I got more super chows too. So let me do the super chat. I got 2 super chows and another super chat. So Xeranx gives us $5 and says, I remember an article where Elizabeth Hurley called Marilyn Monroe a fat for being a size 10. Called her fat. The funny thing is, Monroe's dress would be too small for Hurley. Vanity sizing is a thing and lines up perfectly with Pearl's statement that we'd rather lie to women than tell them the truth. Yes, absolutely. Plain Dane gives us $14 and says, I love bringing up the fact that men have thicker skin around women. It's a fun troll. I noticed that most of the women that get offended, what that means that they don't have a thick skin apparently, are in their 30s. They give me the side-eye mean mug. The 20-year-olds don't mind as much. I jokingly tell them that's why we don't need makeup and why we can take a joke. Thank you. And then Albernated Retro gives us $2 Canadian and says, what? Prince, Bowie, and hairband rockers are rich, Allison. Okay, well, that helps, but I think that, like I said, masculinity is not a box, no matter what, and not in the way that feminists describe it, like, not like men are doing this. There's actually, there are men who are like David Bowie that like indulge in their own androgyny, and there are men that are bodybuilders with big old beards, just the same, and they're both men. Schwarzenegger's a man, Jordan Peterson is a man. That the masculinity has different ways of expressing itself. That's why I'm a JoJo fan. But speaking of JoJo, here, look. I'm going to boop his snoot. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 boops. So I got to boop him 8 times. Boop. JoJo, look. Look at me. Boop. 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 Okay. All right. So we can end it out here.
All right. I'll do
so
my
go ahead
spiel.
and do your last spiel. Yes, do that.
So if you're listening to this after the show, you can send us a tip if you want. feedthebadger.com/justthetip. That's the best way to just slip us some dosh. We get the full benefit of it, and you get the benefit of an extended amount of space. I think it's up to 2,000 characters. Please don't use the whole thing, though. It just gets unwieldy. And also you send it directly to us, so we don't have to deal with YouTube's nonsense. And once again, that's feedthebadger.com/justthetip. If you enjoy this show, give us a message and we'll do more like it. And back to you, Brian.
All right, so if you guys like this video, please smash like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications. Let us know what you guys think about what we discussed. You can watch the full video in the description, so that way you have all of the content. But we went through the whole thing, but you feel free to do that. And maybe they'll let you leave a comment. I don't know if comments are on or not. I do see that there are about 37,000. So yeah, add to that conversation and maybe give us a plug. Appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode. Please share this video because sharing is caring. And we will talk to you all in the next video. I'll see you guys on Friday with Eric July. Thank you guys so much. See you next time.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.